Hál' Istennek, még nappal van. Húzzunk innen. Istenem, ne! Nem, zárva van! Ezt nem hiszem el! Hé, odafent! Hall engem? Ki tudna engedni innen? Szerintem nem hallanak. Te ki tudnád nyitni valahogy? A telefonoknak már rég annyi. Az lesz az. Lássuk, működik-e még. Gyerünk, Gordon, tekerjed! Remek. Irány az állomás, mielőtt a Citadella felrobban.
Amint a saját kárunkon egyszer már megtanultuk, még a
friss levegő.
apró hasadék is lehetőséget adott
A
ellenségeinknek
lépegetők
arra,
jól szétkapták
hogy
a
nagyobbra
környéket.
tágítsák egyre több haderőt juttatván. Az idegen fajokon felül számos
This City 17 vista is an explicit visual reward for surviving the elevator battle. Since early playtesters told us that we weren't communicating just how damaged the city was, this sweeping view of an extremely messed up City 17 serves a practical purpose, as well as being a nice moment of calm between storms. The framing of your first view of the Citadel in this vista space is very deliberate. We included various leading elements, such as wires and light poles, that all drive the player's eye to the Citadel.
Amitől a Combine a legjobban fél, az nem más, mint az akaraterőnk, az intellektusunk, hogy célzottan és észszerűen tudunk reagálni bármire, amit bevetnek ellenünk. Legfőbb reményünk a küzdő.
One thing we try to do when we're integrating storytelling and gameplay, something that's become a hallmark of ours, is to include non-linear bits of narrative. Things that action-oriented players don't have to sit through, but that are available to players who want to learn more about the background of the story. Kleiner's broadcasts on the public address monitors are a good example of this method. Apart from the strong visual image of Dr. Kleiner replacing his former boss on the giant screens, his speech conveys a lot of dense information about the state of the world and how things have changed due to the events of Half-Life 2. We settled on this particular location for the Kleiner cast as one of the few logical places where players can watch in peace or move on to the next encounter. It's essentially a footnote embedded in the world, which makes this a footnote on a footnote.
Elnézést kérek minden esetleges hibáért vagy hiányosságért, meg hogy elpróbálni, de rögzíteni is alig volt időnk. Tessék, irány? Ó, igaz. Dr. Isaac Kleinert, a Black Mesa egykori tudósát, most a Föld egyszerű polgárát hallották.
Later in the level, there's a Combine gunner protected behind some metal plates, just like the ones blocking the player's way here. We placed them here as a training tool to remind players that the gravity gun can grab and detach these things.
Keresnek valamit. Bizonyára minket.
Nem vagyok egy nagy szónok, de megteszem, amit tudok. Szójárdásai! A 17-es város és
A tetőkről! megint észrevesznek.
Leggyorsabb módon adják el a várost. Annak érdekében, hogy a polgárokat gyorsabban elszállítják a városból, nagyjából
Repelling soldiers presented a difficult training problem because we found it's tough to focus the player's attention upward. This entire alley was carefully designed to ensure that the player would see the descending soldiers. First, we framed the soldiers with a straight line of buildings. Then we had them run across the rooftops so they were starkly silhouetted against the sky before they dropped down in front of the lightly colored buildings. Finally, we added a distinctive sound to the repelling action so that the players would recognize it later in the game.
ismétlen azonnal el kell hagyniuk a várost. Bárki? Melynek nagyságrendjét jelenleg nem tudom pontosan megnevezni, kivéve, hogy szinte pontosan sugár.
Ha feldöntöd őket most. Jól lezártad az odókat.
The post-Half-Life 2 look of City 17 was difficult to nail down, and we went through many changes. We wanted to establish several things, primarily that this was a different part of the same city with a slightly different atmosphere, and that it had been severely damaged. This street was a test bed for a lot of our visual design work. First, we built an intact city street, then we beat up certain buildings, in some cases removing them entirely so that more destruction was visible in the distance. We did an initial lighting pass in the game engine and then took screenshots of various locations. Using Photoshop, we manipulated those screenshots to establish a color scheme. Photoshop lets us quickly iterate through all kinds of skies, lighting styles, and color schemes. The environmental lighting colors that we ended up with were based on some photo references of the sun filtering through smoke from a forest fire. Some falling ash effects and a closer than usual fog plane helped sell the effect.
Character AI is all about putting on a good show. As we neared the end of production, we were still unhappy with the way that Alex handled herself in combat. The most common thing she did was run backwards while shooting at the enemies. It was fairly realistic, but kinda boring. So we added crouching and aiming at the last minute, and though it didn't really change her combat effectiveness in any functional way, it made her a whole lot more fun to watch. And this is a really good example of how these relatively minor presentation and behavior changes can often have a really major impact on entertainment value.
Meglátjuk, tudunk-e segíteni másnak kijutni.
Szemmel tartom az utcát, míg kitalálod.
Strip mine traps are great, but they were sort of hard to justify given the total chaos of City 17. Even though we couldn't use strip mines a lot, they made sense in this interrupted ambush scene.
Szép munka! Induljunk fel!
This explosion permanently seals the cafe door, which has a few benefits. From a design perspective, we found that when we limit the amount of backtracking players can do, it gives them confidence to venture forward. And from a practical standpoint, we can clean up the now unreachable entities, giving us a big reduction in overhead. It also helps to minimize potential bugs and exploits. Originally, the player didn't get any weapons until the end of this map, so roller mines were the only way to kill the soldiers. As we added more content to previous levels, it became impractical for players to be without a gun for so long. As a result, players get weapons much earlier now.
Keresztútban vagyunk. Le kell szednünk a lövészeket.
This explosion permanently seals the cafe door, which has a few benefits. From a design perspective, we found that when we limit the amount of backtracking players can do, it gives them confidence to venture forward. And from a practical standpoint, we can clean up the now unreachable entities, giving us a big reduction in overhead. It also helps to minimize potential bugs and exploits.
Vérveszteség észlelve. Figyelem! Kritikus életjelek.
Szép dobás, Gordon. Majdnem leszette a fejem. Hadd másszak fel. Megnézem, mibe készülünk belesétálni. Húha! Jól bevédték az előttünk lévő utcát. Te mész előre, jó? Innen fentről fedezlek, míg el nem érsz oda. Mikor tiszta a terep, követlek. Úgy le tudom neked ereszteni a létrát. Csak szétlövöm a reteszt. A lövésztudományom már kissé rózsdás.
One of the primary design goals of Episode 1 was to convey the sense that Alex and the player are a team. This sniper sequence provides an opportunity for Alex to offer combat support in a cool new way. It also gives the player a chance to watch zombies get sniped up close and from various angles.
Players didn't have any weapons in the original version of this map. That made it a lot more important to remove the boards with a gravity gun so that Alex could snipe the zombies. Once weapons were added though, the sky bridge became less of a puzzle and more of a straightforward combat event. We added more zombies to increase the challenge, but pulling the boards off is still the most fun way to get through this section.
Végre vége! Istenem! A reaktor megint közel a leolvadáshoz. Az adás végül mégis célba ér. Jó lenne egy másik út az épületek körül. Csak hogy erre most nincs időnk. Oké, menjünk be! Gyere!